Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Welcome to Viplavah 2022. This is the 4th annual festival, and today is the second day with the first session. So thank you everyone for joining. So we'll begin with Prabhupada speaks today, and then after that, His Grace Tapan Mishra Prabhu will invite you. Then we'll have the speaker. So let me share my screen and Prabhupada 1, please. Okay, please let me know again.
Knowledge that I am not this body, I am simply wasting my time taking care of this body, but I am different from the body. That is natural. Suppose you are sitting in some place, if you know that place does not belong to you, then why should you take so much care? You are sitting there for some business, finish and go. Similarly, if one is in knowledge, full knowledge, that I am not this body, that is called jnana. Then why you should be bothering so much for this body which is going to be, as I explained yesterday, either ash or stool or earth. This is the last stage of this body. So, the real thing is the soul. Dehinasmin yatha dehe. So we should take care, just like we can take care of the shirt and coat by soaping it, but we must take care of myself, the body which is putting on the shirt and coat. Similarly, this material body is shirt and coat. Real is the spirit soul. So, what is the necessity of the spirit soul? The necessity of spirit soul because it is part and parcel of Krishna. He is hankering to unite with Krishna. That is Krishna consciousness movement. That is Krishna. The soul is hankering after uniting with the Supreme Soul. That is natural. You study in your body, why do you love your body? Or why do you love your son's body? So long the spirit soul is there. As soon as the spirit soul is off, you do not care for the son's body or daughter's body or your wife's body. Then who is the lovable object, the soul? It is very natural to understand. Why don't you love a dead body? Because the soul is not there. Then soul is the object of your love, not this body.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for listening. So I would like to welcome Tapan Mishra Prabhu to welcome the guests here, and then subsequently we'll go for Hanumat Bishop Maharaj's lecture. Thank you.
Thank you. After hearing from His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, I'd like to formally welcome everybody and also, first of all, offer my Vaishnava pranams to all the devotees who are gathered. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I'd like to also offer our pranams and seek blessings from His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadhi Paschatya Deshatarine. From this land of Shridham Mayapur, I seek the blessings of Shri Shri Panchatattva and the Lordship residing here to bring auspiciousness to the symposium. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you, and I hope that the proceedings of this today's symposium, will be enlivening for everyone. Our first speaker is His Holiness Hanumat Prashekar Maharaj, and I'll request Balimardan Prabhu to give an introduction and then hand over to His Holiness.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. So just those who don't know, most of you, all of you know about His Holiness Hanumat Prashekar Maharaj. But quick thing, His Holiness Prashekar Maharaj is presently General Secretary for NIOS, North American Institute for Oriental and Classical Studies in Tennessee, and a regular lecturer with the Institute of Classical, Oriental and Occidental Studies at the highly esteemed Ricardo Palma University in Lima, Peru. Maharaj has also developed an extensive program of external lecturing and travel. This has included work as Associate Director of the Bhaktivedanta Institutes and Ranganiketan Manipur Cultural Arts Troupe, an international cultural tour with artists and musicians from the remote Himalayan kingdom of Manipur. This troupe organized 2 world congresses at the Synthesis of Science and Religion with the participation of Nobel laureates such as George Wald, Charles Darwin, Sir John Eccles, President of the World Council of Churches, the Dalai Lama, and many other introductions. So thank you very much, Maharaj. So floor is yours, and we welcome you to the Viplavah.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Can you hear me, Bali Maharaj?
Yes, Maharaj, loud and clear.
Okay, well, of course, you want to thank all the organizers. Having been involved in organizing these programs for many, many years, we know that it's, tremendous sacrifice and effort to organize these things. And so we only hope that it goes on expanding like this. We're 9 minutes from Radhakund. This is kind of like nine philosophical minutes or something when we go there. And I don't know if our internet connection will survive here. If it does, it doesn't, we'll just reconnect. And also, we're kind of in the jungle here, rough circumstances, only shaving every 2 weeks and so on. And also, we're getting old. I'm 74 years old. You can hear my teeth are falling out, my memory's going, my eyes are going. Shakespeare says, "So ends eyes, so ends teeth, so ends everything." So we're looking at the symposium from that perspective. We've listened to a lot of the presentations. We weren't able to listen to them all, and we're seeing some very, very nice descriptions of projects, ideas, what you call it, like models and things like that. And at our stage of life, we've kind of gone beyond acquiring information and developing models and grammar. And now we're only looking at the basic principles of perspective, I would say. So we would have done a different presentation if we'd known what people were going to say, obviously, because we'd like to fit into the whole program here and make a specific contribution. And that's one suggestion for these symposia. When we've seen some of the very best academically is where speakers are presented, presenters are selected, they cooperate, and they submit their paper, and then somebody reviews it. Somebody qualified, make their comments, and then the original paper, which is going to be read, and the comments are then circulated to all the people who are going to come. And so by the time they're hearing it, they've already got a good perspective on it, and they can have good discussion then. But of course, how to do all this and so on. So I don't think it's, the organizers anyway lacking at what they've done. But if it's possible, that's a very nice perspective. Because again, I heard so many nice things I would like to include in my presentation. But here, basically, our perspective is, I guess I can read it. Okay. Taking shelter of Lord Chaitanya and the entire Panchatattva. Srila Prabhupada, who is the foremost of Gaura Bhaktivinoda and the ultimate refuge and shelter, Sri Radhisama Sundar in ISKCON Ramanreti. We make this a little presentation about going ahead together for the 2022 Ministry of Education Symposium. Having been fortunate and unfortunate to have been involved in organizing these symposia for many decades with the ministry, Bhaktivedanta Institute, and our own NEOS, we extend great thanks to the Minister of Education, Tapa Mishra Das, Bali Maharaj, everybody else. We hope our title sets a little perspective on the ideas that we feel we should present that are relevant to the symposium here. And our title, of course, is Japa Sankirtan Books and Sri Krishna Balaram Mandir. Okay. And two themes especially stand out at this moment. After years of being involved in education, ISKCON education, and many others. Okay. The first would be the fundamental concept of together. This immediately brings to mind our basic concept of Achinta Bheda Bheda Tattva. We feel it is a concept that starts with the Chatur Shloki Bhagavatam and one that is repeated again and again in the Bhaktivedanta purports. On one side, there is a tendency towards absolute totalitarian, top-down, micromanaged structure to our educational community. And on the other side is a tendency towards anarchical, blabbering, sahajiya chorus of a multitude of individual teachers in schools with no system of review or team coordination. Okay. We see this manifest in the eternal rasa between Advaita Acharya and Nityananda, becoming smarta and becoming avaduta. We remember Srila Prabhupada's comment that there will always be these two perspectives and that they have never fully understood each other and they never will. And right away, when I'm talking about this, I'm thinking about my long relationship with Rasaraj Das. And it seems like we have on these two different angles of management and everything else and educational development. So Prabhupada said that there's always going to be this perspective. Okay. So I think that moving ahead together in perfection only happens on the basis of spiritual maturity. From Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we remember the comment that in the advanced stage of realization, the devotee sees that she, he, or it must be 100% concerned with developing their own individual educational effort, school, study, etc. And we were seeing this because the different lectures are being presented here, different ideas, and in some ways they're kind of chaotic and we can't sort out how they relate to us. But then we go back to, well, no, okay, what is our program? What do we have to do? Who are we? What gives us motivation? And what are our responsibilities? What is our Varna Ashram nature? And so 100% we can go ahead with this. We don't have to hesitate with anything else. You can throw yourself completely into your own introspective programs. Okay. And be 100% concerned with the development of education in ISKCON and the Ministry of Education. Okay. You probably already have some deep realization of this. If I really want to offer my unique educational efforts to Krishna, then I see that I must be totally connected, to the tree, like the fruit growing on a tree. Okay, that I must make sure that I have the resources of an excellent educational institution, ISKCON, to work with. Simultaneously, if I am sincere, I see that if I want to see education, ISKCON, move together as an institution, all of us moving together, then I must have something to personally contribute. I am an indestructible particle, cannot be withered or burnt. So the particle has to develop its personal character, an absolutely individual creative contribution, or it has nothing to give to the whole society. It cannot be an empty husk. So our conception, of course, is that Krishna has created every single one of us for a specific individual purpose. I'm trying to eliminate this little bar there. Okay. 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 This is our first thought about Achinta Beta Beta Tattva as the ultimate reality and going ahead together and developing an educational institution and also having our own personal unique relationship with Krishna, experiencing it with Prabhupada, looking at the ontological nature of moving together forward. Okay. For us, it is as difficult and fulfilling as realizing the four original verses of the Bhagavatam. For us, it is as difficult and fulfilling realizing this Achinta Beta Beta situation as the four verses of the Bhagavatam. In the short time we have here, we hope it is stimulating and orientating towards one of the most fundamental aspects of Krishna consciousness. The second topic is then, how do we apply this practically? From the same exposition by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we remember his comment that although this non-Euclidean logic of Achinta, inconceivable unity and variety, is the only solution to working together, it is not possible in the beginning and even much of the intermediate stage. Therefore, he says, we must make a balance. We must learn how to mix our contribution to the ministry of education and our own individual adventures. Simultaneously, the ministry must realize that it has the right and responsibility to expect responsible citizenship from ISKCON educators, but to also act as absolute servants to the individual inspirations of ISKCON educators. But they have to learn how to have an institutional balance in this, because we can't do it spontaneously in the beginning. Personally, we have participated and worked for years in developing practical manifestations of this, such as ministry periodicals, web pages, symposium, regional representatives, etc. I think many of us know what mixed success the ministry has had for decades. There is definite reason for pride and realization that there is an ongoing struggle. We are too old to do much. The mental energy is finished at 50 or 55 years old. Then one can mostly only offer perspective. The only perspective that we would like to offer here is that we feel first, here is that we feel first, everyone listening should become clear who they are. Okay, that's our idea, the way we're looking at it. Not the only way. First, everybody should understand who are they. Okay, what are their responsibilities and passions in education? Then develop communications with others who have accomplished the same work to define who are we. Okay, who am I? Who are we? Then finally, plans for work on the basis of these personal relationships, and then identifying resources becomes easy. So 4 things we're giving as a practical idea here. Who am I? Who are we? What's the plan? And what resources do we need? This paradigm came to us in a flash while we were at Ramagat with Lokanath Maharaj's Brajmandal Parikrama. We have applied it with great success. And then Srinivas Das showed us the management classic from good to great that was being used by Micron, which had come to the same conclusion based upon social science research. Who am I? Who are we? What's the plan? What do we need? Okay. So we're presenting here a little discussion of ontology, of being a person in the populace, praxeology, of applying it in reality. You know, who am I? Who are we? And we'd like to finish off then with what is education? Okay. This is the final theme that sticks out to us at our age and position in ISKCON education. How do we learn? Some of the people who are alive while I am writing this presentation may be dead before it is presented. I may be dead before it is presented. If President Putin starts a nuclear war, all lines of international communication may be dead. We have to learn to wake up. You know, we have to go beyond birth, death, disease, and old age. Education means to wake up to birth, death, disease, and old age. Okay, become fixed in our transcendental swarup. So there's the goal of education. It's not diplomas. It's not this and that. It's not liberation. It's not keeping the society in the society specifically, but it's the individually that we wake up and get free from the samsara. We remember Socrates' comment that he could not teach his students anything. He could only help them to remember what they already know. We don't want to become karmis, accumulating different facts, verses, concepts that we show on our heads like jewels. As a preliminary stage to acquire information, memorize verses in your head is good, but are they taking place in your heart? Unless we are coming to understand what this means, having a change of heart, then our education will not save us from rebirth in another material body. And then 1.5.22, this is Narada Muni talking to Vyasadeva, educating him. And Swarup Damodar Maharaj told us that Prabhupada said he wrote this purport specifically for preaching in the scientific atmosphere. And the verse says, learned circles have positively concluded that the infallible purpose of the advancement of knowledge, and the advancement of knowledge, namely, is austerities, study of the Vedas, sacrifice, chanting of hymns, and charity, culminates in the transcendental descriptions of the Lord who is defined in choice poetry. We are learning, waking up by walking barefoot through the land of Vrindavan again and again. You must develop your own ways of learning. Books are essential. Srimad Bhagavatam class every morning is a personal responsibility you have to your guru, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Every sincere Vaishnava, taken in proportion to Nectar of Instruction 4, 5, 6, is also our teacher, directing us to Krishna and Guru. In Srila Prabhupada's society, we learn through our ears, eyes, tongue, feet. You don't have to know anything in your memory. You have to change the bhava, perspective, attitude in your heart. Then you will know everything necessary to do and develop your service from direct perception of spiritual reality. Now we are 9 minutes from Radhakund. Every time we go there, chanting japa all the way, chanting japa all the way around, we can feel the reality of Gokula rising. Punja Punya Kriti. All these activities Srila Prabhupada has given us are essential in a balanced educational diet. Japa, singing and dancing before the deities, offering arti, kirtan, sankirtan, daivi varna ashram, dharma. After sitting in the classroom, Arjuna picked up his arms and went out and killed people. He was an educated man. You and the ministry have to learn to create a properly balanced diet of educational activities with the tangible result of seeing every day that we are waking up. To finish with a practical note, have I got time enough? I don't think I have time enough. Okay. So what I commented here is a very, very excellent book. Maybe one of the best books I've found in my whole life. Top 10 books. I recommend it to everybody. It's called Improvisation for the Theater. What we're doing is Gandharva Veda, singing and dancing and chanting. Okay, like Lord Chaitanya. And so all the terms that Rupa Goswami uses in Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, come from the theater tradition of Bharata Muni. So if you look at these modern theater theories and stuff, it's so exciting to compare it with our yoga. Jayaweta Maharaj also accepted, yeah, we're doing Gandharva Veda. So improvisation for the theater in the beginning has about 20 pages of theory of what is self-realization, how it works. And it's so stimulating to look at it and compare it to what we're doing. Then after that, the rest of the entire book is simply games, learning through playing games. It's a whole separate discussion. But one of the very, very practical things we wanted to finish off with here is that they're trying to teach you that when you're on the stage, I know my lines, you know your lines, and sometimes it devolves down into two parallel monologues. I'm barely halfway listening to what you're saying in the drama, and I know, okay, now it's time for me to say my scripted part. And the same thing can happen in kirtan. The kirtan leader chants the Maha Mantra and then does not listen to the devotees responding. And he kind of notices when they finish, so he chants again. And they don't really listen to what he's chanting except in general and so on. So there's no real dialogue developing. You know, Prabhupada said, first I listen and then you chant. And he said, then you chant and I listen. Takeaway here. And I always have to catch myself too, that I'm not like just kind of cutting off or anything else. When we're doing the verse every morning in the Bhagavatam, you're actually listening to how the devotees are responding. Are they pronouncing it properly? Have they got it properly? Are they telling you something in their response which you need to add to your leadership? You know. So it's a very, very kind of practical process. And when we're engaged in kirtan, of course, then we can find our place. We always have individual, unique leadership responsibilities. You know, this is always a fact. Always, every cowherd boy thinks he is Krishna's closest friend. And every cowherd boy thinks, Sanatana Goswami says, that Krishna is taking him as his closest friend. But he's thinking, but so many other boys are so much more dedicated and concerned with Krishna's happiness. Why does he take me as his closest friend and talk about these things? So Sanatana Goswami says, every cowherd boy thinks that he's being taken as Krishna's closest friend. And he says, by the nature of the internal potency, this is a fact. So in any kirtan, any educational institution, we have to take responsibility to see that the entire society is serving Srila Prabhupada properly. And of course, it's the whole technique of chanting, listening to the people while you're chanting, seeing how they're responding, and guiding them from your perspective to be engaged in Prabhupada's service. So anyway, we hope our presentation has been of some use and people advance in their service by taking advantage of this, because if you do, we want to steal some of your ideas and developments. Thank you very much. We hope to hear from you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
So nice one. I posted if anyone has any questions or comments about Maharaj, please go ahead.
Everybody is dumbfounded and flabbergasted. I can't believe he just did that presentation. Okay, so thank you all very much.
I
now
have
we'll go
a
on
question.
listening to her.
I have a
Oh my
question
God.
for Maharaj.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, you never write to us anymore. What's going on? Are you alive?
I guess a bit too much going on in my life, Maharaj.
Oh, yeah.
I could do with less. Maharaj, I wanted to ask that we had several presentations yesterday with respect to developing relationship with universities, institutes of higher education. We also heard from Bhaktivedanta Institute. Maharaj, could you share with us what is, in your experience, best way to interface with the intellectual class of men?
I mean, this is my perspective. You know, the blind men approach the elephant. They got different conclusions. So, but I can, you know, broader aspect. I know my position in education. I was like an A- student and stuff. and other things. I was doing very well. I went all the way to the doctorate program before I, changed tracks and everything else. And so I'm well situated. I really Hanama Swami. I like finding educational opportunities. I like turning those over to people who like more to work in that area, in academic areas, sitting with their libraries and their books. I don't like sitting with big libraries and books. I like to travel and a few things and so on. So you should know the educational environment well enough to know your position. Then after that, I mean, you need to acquire a few qualifications. I can introduce myself quite legitimately as Professor Huber Hutchin Robinson. If I'm challenged, I can say that I am Professor ad causis honoris with Ricardo Palma University, one of the most distinguished universities in South America. Well, okay, that's enough for me. They don't want a doctorate, So yeah, we have to learn their language. We have to learn their culture. We have to acquire some of the badges. Lord Chaitanya acquired the sannyas title from Shankara Sampradaya, and then finally, if then you're going to meet different people who are involved in different levels, and so different deans, and of course through Radhika Raman, we've had a lot of connections in South America, different people, our devotional contacts, our professors at different universities, and through them, we're developing our connection and our preaching program. We go in as Hanama Prashak Swami, parentheses, Professor Huber Hutchin Robinson. Hridayananda Myers goes in as Professor, whatever it is, Harold Resnick, parentheses, what does it call it? Hridayananda Goswami. And we talked about it, and yeah, they're both different ways to approach it, both valid. So it depends upon your particular character. Then after that, it depends upon making friends with people in different administrative and institutional positions. And then, yeah, you can make your contribution like that. Meeting people, making friends. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Yeah. Atul Krishna's son's going to be traveling with us for a few months. So watch out. This is the mafia of the Ministry of Education. That my disciple is married to Atul's son. How the ministry really goes on. Okay, thank you very much, Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Maharaj, for joining and giving our blessings. Thank you. So we'll have our next speaker will be Atul Krishna Prabhuji. So let me give a quick introductions to Atul Krishna Prabhu. So I think many of you know Atul Krishna Prabhu joined ISKCON's Melbourne Mahaprabhu Mandir in Australia in 1985. He served as a book distributor and fundraiser in ISKCON Melbourne for 12 years. So Prabhu spent the subsequent 4 years under the personal guidance of his mantra guru, preaching in Bangladesh, during which time he learned fluent Bengali. Prabhu resides in Siddha, Mayapur, and teaches Shastra and teacher training in both English and Bengali mediums throughout India, Bangladesh, and the Middle East. He currently serves as the chairman of the ISKCON Board of Examinations. So we'd like to welcome Atul Krishna Prabhu this floor. Thank you very much. So please, you can unmute yourself.
Krishna. Can I be heard?
Yes, I can hear you, Prabhu.
Shadvaitam Shavadutam Parijana Shaitam Krishna Chanadevam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shibishakam Dang Shanta Guru Tashika Guru Gam Chadanayage Gaudiya Bandam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Rastaya Bhutale Shamade Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tunamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vichani Nirvisheshashna Vishtat Deshtarni. Share the screen. Can you see the screen?
Not yet. Probably your network bandwidth is really low. So, but yeah, it may come.
See the screen now?
Yeah, it is coming up something.
Something.
Yes, not. Yeah, we can see now. I can see at least. Can anyone hear Prabhu? Atul Krishna?
Nobody but then Prabhu, we are not able to hear Atul Krishna Prabhu at all.
Yeah, can you speak, Prabhuji, if you are?
Yeah, well, I'm not speaking. Can you hear me
Oh,
now?
okay. Yeah, I can hear now. Okay.
Can you see this? Can you see the screen?
Yes, we can see the screen and I can hear.
It's an update. We're giving an update on the Shastrik degree program as Srila Prabhupada envisioned. We've got so many books now, and I want all of my disciples to read them carefully. Soon we'll be instituting Bhakti Shastri examinations, and all Brahmins will have to pass. So utilize whatever time you find to make a thorough study of my books. And Prabhupada's purpose in establishing the 4 degrees, Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhava, Bhakti Vedanta, and Bhakti Sarvabhauma, was to encourage his disciples to read the books very carefully. As he mentioned, see, already we have so many books, but in order to further encourage his followers to read the books, Prabhupada instituted the degree program. And in this way, devotees would be encouraged, facilitated to make a thorough study of Srila Prabhupada's books. With these and Prabhupada, he felt that the system of examinations would be effective in encouraging his followers to thoroughly study the books. With these examinations, I wish to encourage all my disciples to very carefully learn the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, because there's so many preachers required who will be required to bring the message to all corners of the earth. So Prabhupada wanted his followers to make a thorough study and a careful study of his books so that they would become more conversant in the philosophy and become more effective in preaching Krishna consciousness. And in Gita, 8th chapter, last verse, text 28, Prabhupada is also mentioning here that development of character also is the goal of Vedic study. After the student studies the Vedas under the master for a period from 5 to 20 years, he may become a man of perfect character. Study of the Vedas is not meant for recreation of armchair speculators, but for the formation of character. Now, these principles have been incorporated, or this vision has been incorporated over the decades by ISKCON devotees and teachers who've been teaching the Shastrik degrees. We had the aims of Shastrik study developed originally by Vaishnava Training and Education, VTE, Rashamandala Prabhu. And the work of the VTE in this regard had a great influence on the early development of the Shastrik degree programs in ISKCON over the last couple of decades. The Vrindavan Institute of Higher Education was incorporating these principles, having specific aims and assessing the achievement of these aims in the Shastrik degree program. The Mayapur Institute, the Bhaktivedanta College, Belgium also was incorporating these concepts, and along with assessing knowledge, understanding, and memory recall, also assessing application, the students' ability to effectively preach, and the students imbibing the extent to which they're imbibing the principles of the Shastra in their lives. Now, let's take a look at statistics over the last couple of decades in regard to the Shastrik degree program. We began, the ISKCON Board of Examinations was first established in 1995 by the GBC directly in order to standardize the examinations of the 4 degrees and to write those examinations. And no one in ISKCON is permitted to offer the title of Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhava, Bhakti Vedanta, Bhakti Sarvabhauma without the approval of the ISKCON Board of Examinations. Now, since 1995, the board has been keeping records of all the Shastri degree graduates in the movement. And it's interesting to see, can you see the slide?
Yes, we can view the slide.
So in 2019, which was approximately 2 decades or 25 years after the program had originally been officially instituted in the movement, we had in 2019, just over 2 years ago, we had 8,700 Bhakti Shastri graduates and around 250 Bhakti Vaibhav graduates. And Bhakti Vedanta, Bhakti Sarvabhauma, they don't actually make a impact on the statistics at all. So few devotees, just a handful of devotees, Bhakti Vedanta, no one's Bhakti Sarvabhauma. So that was in 2019. Now, in the last 2 years, we've had a significant increase in the devotees taking the degrees and in the facilitation of the degree program overall. And so in the last couple of years, we've actually more devotees have taken the degrees in the last couple of years than we've found in the previous 25 years. So these are the figures that we're looking at now. More than 17,000 in the last 2 years, so it was doubled. And also Bhakti Vaibhav, also the figures have doubled. And similarly, the ISKCON centers that actually offering the degrees. In 1995, we had 50 centers out of our 700 or so. We had 50 centers where Bhakti Shastri was offered, and we had 7 centers where Bhakti Vaibhav was offered. Actually, those Bhakti Vaibhav centers are included in the 50. They're not extra. They're included in the Bhakti Shastri program. So it's only 50 temples really that were offering it. Now, in the last 2 years, similarly, those figures have doubled. And we have 118 temples offering Bhakti Shastri program, and we have 18 temples offering the Bhakti Vaibhav program. Now, the reasons for that, of course, the lockdown played a major role in increasing these numbers, because when so many of our usual activities, which we're kept busy with, were put on hold, then devotees became interested. Now we have so much time to study Srila Prabhupada's books. And so that the lockdown, of course, had a major impact on increasing the devotees' interest, of giving them time to go through a thorough study of the books in a systematic way. And also the developments of the Ministry of Education, where previously up to 2019, all of the administrative work of the Board of Examinations was kept together by one person. That's His Grace Bhakti Rupa Babu. And he did tremendous service over the last couple of decades, personally administrating and keeping the records and certifying, providing the certificates of the degree program. And from 2020 onwards, the ministry administrative team took over those responsibilities in working along with Bhakti Rupa. He's still involved in the administration of the program, along with the ministry's administrative team. So we could say that the ministry was able to keep up with the interest that the devotees had during the lockdown to study the books in a more systematic way. And we also, in terms of together moving forward to the future, we were able to establish in the ministry some very significant programs, which contributed tremendously toward the increase in the numbers of the devotees taking the degrees. And that the first aspect of that was that we digitalized the the certificates. And so now, instead of having to have your certificates manually sent by the mail, and it takes a long time and it's costly, everything's digitalized and your certificates are sent out over the net, and you can print them at your respective destination. Now, this, of course, is essentially important, where when we began the online programs, online Shastrik courses, another result of the impact of the lockdown, that everything went online, all of our activities in ISKCON went online, along with the Shastrik study program. And so we have devotees from all over the globe that are enrolled in various courses. And so to try to somehow or other send out certificates to all of these remote places is a logistical nightmare. So the digital certificates definitely contributed in a major way in terms of effectively setting up the program and facilitating it. In addition to that, the Study and Teach program, which is a major step forward, which is developed by the ministry in coordination with the Board of Examinations. In this program, the Study and Teach program, this involves that a devotee that may not have themselves is particularly designed for leaders, a devotee that may not have completed the courses themselves, can undergo their own personal study. And with a number of students, we recommend 8 students, then they can go through and teach as they're studying themselves, they can teach the students. It is particularly suitable for ISKCON leaders who are naturally in the role of giving guidance to devotees. And so we're providing so much facilities for them. We have developed our Board of Examinations standard question banks for the Bhakti Shastri and the Bhagavatam. We're still working on the Bhagavatam. The Bhakti Shastri questions are all completed. And a special mention, we like to, on behalf of the ministry and the Board of Examinations, we'd like to express our deep appreciation to His Holiness Hanumat Prashak Swami Maharaj, who was instrumental in helping us develop these question banks. It was Maharaj's inspiration, actually, that brought us together a couple of years ago, and we had some Shastric degree teaching symposiums, and teachers met, first of all, in Pune. Maharaj was there and giving us guidance, and then again we met in Noida, and many of the concepts that we're sharing with you today resulted from the meetings and the discussions that we had with Hanumat Prashak Swami Maharaj in Pune and in Noida. And subsequently, over the last 2 years, Maharaj has very dedicatedly given so much of his time in helping us develop these question banks. And personally, it was a great honor for me to be able to serve alongside Maharaj in this area and to see his depth of philosophical understanding and knowledge of the Shastra, and the contribution that he has personally made to devotees will be felt and appreciated and for generations to come. So we'd like to thank Maharaj for his great contribution in that area. Also, we're providing study guides from the various institutes and devotees who've been teaching for decades. So study guides are available, develop student handbooks, classes, videos of experienced teachers, and guidance and mentorship is all provided by the ministry to facilitate the Study and Teach program, and that's contributed tremendously to making the degrees more accessible amongst the devotees. In addition to the Study and Teach program, we've also developed recently the summative exams. So a Bhakti Shastri summative exam involves a question bank, a standing question bank. It is public. It is available on the ministry's website. It includes 50 questions. And the candidates, this is particularly designed for ISKCON leaders that may not be able to give the time to attend a whole set of classes in a course. And it may not even be required for them as they're already regularly studying Srila Prabhupada's books. And Prabhupada's initial concept was that simply an exam would be available for devotees. So in pursuance of Prabhupada's original vision, we've provided a standard question bank of 50 questions. And then when you're ready, when you've prepared yourself, and if you, by looking at those questions, then you're given an exam, a closed book exam consisting of 8 questions, randomly selected from the 50, and around about 300 to 400 word responses are there. And that question bank is public and is available on the Ministry of Education website. And just recently, in the last couple of months, we also completed the Bhakti Vaibhav examination. And the Bhakti Vaibhav summative examination, that's divided into 2 components, 2 sections, 2 modules, cantos 1 to 3, and the question bank is 32 questions that's given to you in advance. And when you're ready, you can take the questions, you can take the exam, or similarly around about 8 questions randomly selected, similar length of response, around 300-400 words, 3-4-5 paragraphs. And subsequently, you can take the exam for cantos 4 and 6, which is of a similar amount of content. Also, just on that note, quite a few devotees actually had taken Bhakti Shastri courses and taken the first few cantos of the Bhagavatam, but hadn't been able to complete their entire Bhakti Vaibhav studies. And so for such candidates, if it's suitable for them, they can also complete everything by just taking the summative exam for cantos 4 to 6, where that is applicable. So in this way, the summative exams and the study and teach program have contributed tremendously to helping us increase these numbers of devotees taking the degrees. However, practically speaking, we're still falling short tremendously in relation to Prabhupada's original vision for the degree program. Here we have 17,000, currently around about 17,000 Bhakti Shastri graduates, 600 or 700 Bhakti Vaibhav graduates, just a handful of Bhakti Vedanta graduates, not on the chart because it doesn't register. But actually Prabhupada's vision was this. I want that all of my spiritual sons and daughters will inherit the title of Bhakti Vedanta, so that the family transcendental diplomas will continue through the generations. So we're still tremendously falling short of Prabhupada's vision that all of the devotees, Bhakti Vedanta degrees. In other words, that when you come to the movement, that you begin your thorough study of Srila Prabhupada's books, Bhakti Shastri. Currently, that is connected to second initiation. Bhakti Vaibhav is connected to sannyas, and Prabhupada made specific statements in that regard, that brahmanas should take Bhakti Shastri, sannyasis should take Bhakti Vaibhav, and he said that initiating guru should be Bhakti Vedanta. So we still have a tremendous amount of work to do in order that the degree program can be sufficiently disseminated throughout the movement, and devotees get the degrees and they're engaged in systematically studying the books from the very beginning of their coming to the movement, and that program will go on as they remain a devotee, and when they take on leadership responsibilities, they're still involved in systematic studies and getting the various degrees up to the point of Bhakti Sarvabhauma. So to complete that vision, to fulfill that vision of Srila Prabhupada is the responsibility of the Ministry of Education. And today, the purport of this particular presentation is to encourage you, those of you who have not completed the degrees yet, then take advantage of these opportunities, the study and teach program. And in that way you can carry on with the preaching and have students, and you can also, the students can get the degrees, you can get the degrees, or if you prefer the summative exam, you're already preaching and traveling, or you're already involved in education and you feel comfortable about taking a summative exam, and the summative exams are available. Those of you who haven't taken the degrees yet, we encourage you to take advantage of these facilities, and those of you who have already got the degrees, then we encourage you to make this known to the devotees in your respective zones and encourage them to take advantage of these facilities that the ministry is offering. And we are at your disposal to help you in as much as we possibly can in this regard. And that concludes the presentation.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. And I would like to welcome devotees to ask questions in the chat, or any direct question, you can raise your hand. So can I ask one question, Prabhuji, to you?
Yeah.
One thing I just noticed, there are some different variations of understanding when the teachers in Bhakti Shastri or Bhakti Vaibhav about awarding the certificates. For example, Bhakti Shastri, when the student enroll, they complete it, and after that they give various criteria. Oh, you need to be an initiated devotees, you need to do this one, you need to be a certain age, and you need to have so much of things. So do you have a kind of a standardized way that what is the minimum qualifications of a student to award a Bhakti Shastri? Or because if their students are enrolled and they've completed and then we are not awarding, so how do you fit? What is our approach?
So the question is, are there minimum standards for enrolling in the degrees?
Enrolling and getting the degree, yes.
Yes, there are. They're all available and posted on the website, and it's devotees that's following the principles, chanting and regularly chanting and is engaged in a favorable way in ISKCON, and you require an authorization from an ISKCON officer, and then you're eligible to enroll in a degree program. And similarly for Bhakti Vaibhav, and in order to take Bhakti Vaibhav, you need to have a Bhakti Shastri degree, and so on.
Got it. Thank you, Prabhu. So let me look into chat if there are some. So Digvijaya Prabhu is saying, thank you, Prabhuji, for this presentation. And Brajaraj Govindas Prabhu is saying, I understand that realization is more important than theoretical knowledge. By means of these Samadhi exams and other means to award the degree in a short time, how can the rigor?
Okay, I've got this question. Yeah. The question is, how can the rigor of standards be maintained? Well, let's look at what can we do in education. Assessment plays a major role in it. An assessment where we're measuring the extent of learning, and as we mentioned, we're not just simply measuring theoretical knowledge, we're also measuring application. Assessment also involves presentations. Students, it's open book assessment, so they're sharing how they're applying what they learned in their lives and in their preaching. So, and in that way, and ultimately we're relying upon association with Prabhupada in the books. That was Prabhupada's vision. Prabhupada felt that simply an exam would be an effective way of ensuring learning. An exam, Prabhupada, he felt that system was effective, and he instituted the exam system himself. He personally gave the exams in Mayapur, and he personally assessed students' papers. So that's it. By reading the books and taking the exams, certainly learning will be there.
Thank you. Devotees, please post your questions in the chat, or you can also, if you want to speak, please ask for unmute. Raise your hand. You have any comments, Tapan Mr. Prabhuji? Just last before we go to breakout, anything you'd like to share?
Yes, I do. Yes. Thank you so much. And well, my first comment is, I think we should all stay together and churn this a little bit more with the help of Atul Krishna Prabhu, right? So we have to get our audience and participants a little bit active. But coming back to Atul Krishna Prabhu's presentation today, his discussion, I think, first of all, we would like to thank Atul Krishna Prabhu on behalf of the ministry and the Board of Examination for the tremendous, tremendous work that has been carried out. Do you know, there is an analogy that when we receive a preparation in front of us for feast, it's consumed very quickly. But only the chefs and the cooks who have cooked it know how much energy goes behind it. And the energy that has been put in by the Board of Examination and the members behind it, they've performed a service for the pleasure of the devotees. And the devotees can reciprocate to that service by actually taking advantage of it. So what I really liked about Prabhu's presentation is he's able to give us a historical perspective of how making some important structural changes can lead to immense growth in fulfilling Srila Prabhupada's vision. Atul Krishna Prabhu has been at the helm of it in directing it at the Board of Examination. Several Board of Examination members have helped. We're grateful to them. And we're grateful also to Hanumat Prasheka Maharaj and other devotees who've actually helped in preparing the question banks. So I cannot thank enough the efforts that have been put in this direction. I do want to take the permission as we come towards the end of Atul Krishna Prabhu's presentation, whether Atul Krishna Prabhu would be happy along with me to churn this topic a little bit more, because we have an option of going into breakout rooms where there'll be fewer of us and discussing a little bit, or the option of staying here together and churning the topic. My preference is staying here, provided that Atul Krishna Prabhu feels also that we can do it together.
Fine. Yeah.
Thank you, Atul Krishna Prabhu. So I would like all the participants who are present to confirm by raise of hands in your profiles. Just raise your hands and let us know whether you are available now to participate with us. That is, to speak and interact in the next 20-25 minutes that we will have the next session.
So do you want Tapan Mr. Prabhu to make two breakout, just focusing on Shastrik, or we can just open both these things in one forum?
I have suggested that we're not going to have breakouts because we need to ensure that there's adequate participation.
Okay.
So I'm asking by raise of hands, and 3 devotees have raised their hands. Now there is 5 who say that they're able to participate in an interactive session now, here together, where we will discuss topics related to Shastric education, and hopefully that will also lead to more questions and discussion on the topic.
Perfect.
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 devotees already ready to participate. That's excellent. I think that's a good start. So I want to formally first thank Atul Krishna Prabhu for his session before we go into the next one. Atul Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much. We're just closing the first session formally, but you're not leaving us. You're going to be with us for the next session, where we will try and progress the cause for Shastric education. Okay, so the first thing that I would request devotees who have agreed to participate with us now is to share with us either in the chat box, or if you like to speak, and please do.
Actually, I unmuted everyone so they can unmute themselves and speak. That would be better. So
sure.
Yes.
So I would like all the participants who are present to, the first question at hand is, what is the greatest obstacle that you have witnessed that does not allow devotees to take up Shastric education certification? I repeat, what would you like as an obstacle to be removed so that more and more devotees can become Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav, Bhakti Vedanta, and Bhakti Sarvabhauma, as Srila Prabhupada wanted? I request that only devotees who are speaking may please unmute themselves. And I will call upon now, your hands are up. So you can put your hands down. If you like to share, I'll call upon you one by one. I hope the question is clear. What is the obstacle you face, you witnessed in ISKCON, that does not allow devotees to take Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav certification? I have some names who have raised their hands. I'd like to invite Adbhut Agyama Prabhu to share his observation first. We've not heard from him. I'll go to Sundar Nimai Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. I'm speaking from ISKCON Habibpur. I attended your first Viplavah also in Mayapur. So thank you very much. You have been tirelessly conducting these sessions. And somehow because of this, I'm a little bit aware of things happening. And I wanted to conduct Bhakti Shastri during Corona time in our center, when people were not able to come to the center and not temple. So I contacted Bhaktaru Prabhu, as initially Prabhuji told, he was a person of contact. And otherwise, I was not knowing how to conduct a Bhakti Shastri in our center, in our temple, how to start off. So actually, this is one thing. Somehow I got it and started. And I wanted to know now, like one problem which we are facing is, if we tell devotees like to, already we are having regular classes, regular house programs and Bhakti Vriksha classes and all, regular preaching programs and classes. So separately, if we tell devotees, you take out time again for a Bhakti Shastri course, and every week you have to come 2 days at temple or something like that, or even online also, every day you have to come so and so time, because people are having different schedules and different things. So already some preaching programs are going on. So if we can integrate and do something by which people can easily do Bhakti Shastri, because they will not be able to take out time on a regular basis of what we decide, or like according to the convenience of the group or audience or the devotee group. Can we do something like, for example, I thought like this, that if we are having already weekly program in a house, every week we are going and having a 2-hour, 3-hour class or session. So can we not integrate and convert into a Bhakti Shastri course? And who are qualified people, can we do that for the qualified people? We can take
So if I
exams
understand you correctly, your question has two parts. One is that devotees are very busy preaching, if I may use that word, busy preaching, and they do
preaching
not
or
have
different
time.
services and different activities. Yeah, they're busy basically. Yeah.
Sure. So the first part is an observation that devotees are very busy. And the next part is, how can their engagement in preaching or conducting classes, is there a way to merge it into them receiving their Bhakti Shastris, Bhakti Vaibhav? So I have a perspective that is possible. Yes, very much possible. Atul Krishna Prabhu shared with you two models that make that happen right away. The first model is study and teach. If they're going to the same set of audience, and there are more than 8 every week, they can study and teach.
Okay.
What they must do is they must fulfill the systematic objectives of the Bhakti Shastri program. That is, they must impart education on the 4 books of Bhakti Shastri completely, starting from the first chapter to the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita and so on. They can request the audience to study themselves some sections of Bhagavad Gita for their weekly programs, and the teacher must prepare well. They can use the study guides that have been provided, and this preaching program can be converted into a study and teach program. So that was the purpose of the study and teach program, exactly this. The second option, obviously, is to allow devotees who have, presumably, through their preaching, acquainted themselves with Srila Prabhupada's books adequately well, in which case they can write the summative exam, which was introduced by Atul Krishna Prabhu as well. So both these options will allow the devotees to receive their credentials as they impart education through various forums. It can be a Sunday feast, it can be a morning Bhagavatam class, whatnot. Now, let me also propose a very different idea to you. At the temple, we're supposed to study Bhagavatam every morning and also Bhagavad Gita and other books in the evening.
Evening.
So imagine a scenario where that's also done in a systematic way and in a way where over the years the devotees receive their Bhakti Vaibhav and Bhakti Shastri alongside. So there are options like that. Atul Krishna Prabhu, would you like to add something?
I think Tabamisha Babu, you covered everything.
Thank you. Now, on that note, I also wanted to, on this question that was raised previously, by means of these summative exams and other means to award the degree in a short time, how can the rigor or the standard be maintained? I want to just highlight that there's a misunderstanding here, a gross misunderstanding. The period short, award the degree in a short time. It is not a short time. The study and teach program is only available to devotees who performed a certain number of years of service within ISKCON and who have been familiar with Srila Prabhupada's books. So imagine a scenario where we have somebody, and of course, I'm now taking a very different perspective, right? We have a new bhakta who goes into an institute, studies for 1 year or 6 months and gets a Bhakti Shastri degree, age 21. 6 months, study and gets a Bhakti Shastri degree. It's quite possible, right? A lot of devotees get it. That's one side. Now, please contrast this with something else. Another devotee who's 35 to 40 years old has been serving the movement for good 15, 20 years, sharing the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita regularly, studying, performing practical service. And trust me, the rigor of service is quite high. In the temple, in the preaching field, in management. Where do you think it is a short time? And where do you think the rigor or standards are maintained higher? So that's one way to look at it. Yeah. It does not mean a short time. It means a long time. The same again, as Atul Krishna Prabhu highlighted, with respect to the summative exam. Oh, please bear in mind, once again, not for the faint-hearted. It is for those who have, it's meant for a certain age group, 50 or 45 plus. Those who are so thorough with Srila Prabhupada's books. Because this is not going to be exams which are, closed book exams that are happening every now and then. You just focus on few chapters, one chapter, few questions, come prepared. You know the Swadhyaya questions, you memorize them and come prepared. No, not at all. These are, you will be given question, even in the Bhakti Shastri, from any of the books, any part. The questions are there, but the questions are not something that you can memorize and write the answers. Moreover, the devotees who will evaluate your answers will evaluate also on the depth of your writing. So I just want to take the opportunity to just add those few words there. That currently the ministry has 3 models. The model of the institutes, the examination centers, all our examination centers, which are also acting as institutes, and they play a phenomenal role. One thing I like to mention is the increase in the uptake of the number of Bhakti Shastris, Bhakti Vaibhavs, has also been due to the phenomenal role played by our examination centers. So we thank them for that. But that's one model. The other 2 that we've introduced in the last 2 years is for specific other devotees who can take advantage of it. So this is just going to give a variety of ways to do it. Prabhu, Nimai Prabhu, I took a bit of a digression, Sundar Nimai Prabhu, But please let me know if that satisfies your question. Okay, probably.
A comment, Tapamisha Babu, if I can offer a comment.
Yes, please.
Because we were discussing about the obstacles that we face in disseminating the degrees throughout the movement. I've noticed over the last couple of decades of teaching the degrees that regularly, in most cases, particularly with even with Bhakti Shastri, but particularly with the Bhagavatam, the students, I find it's the first. In most cases, it's the first time they're reading the books, the first time, and that's great. They're coming for the courses and they're taking that systematic program for training. Now, the problem with that is that the older devotees, they don't find it so suitable for them when their classes are just full of the younger devotees who are new to the philosophy, and even the teachers sometimes, the senior devotees, oftentimes the teachers are junior to the senior devotees. So I think that caused a major blockage, that because leaders weren't taking the courses then, and some whole yatras, the courses weren't so encouraged because people felt that even there's the leaders weren't encouraging so much, they didn't have that facility themselves. So that's why it's so essential that we establish these programs specifically for the leaders, to encourage them to take the degrees in ways, some areas of compensation, because they didn't have these programs when they were young devotees. So considering the environment that we're in, these different options are essential for us to establish the programs, the degree programs completely.
Thank you, Atul Krishna Prabhu. You offer us a perspective that helps us to appreciate this from the leader's perspective, definitely. And on a similar note, probably you'll also agree with the other observation which we received, because these programs were not started ad hoc. These programs were established after thinking through the needs. One of the needs is the following. Leaders, managers are very busy. And it's very difficult for them to take out 6 months or a few months every year and go to another location. It's just, they can't do it. Their service to Srila Prabhupada is so intense. So both these programs allow them to take the credentials wherever they are. Thank you. Let us go on and now hear from Jai Jagannath Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Just had one observation on Bhakti Vaibhav. So Bhakti Vaibhav, that evaluation process is actually very elaborate and very lengthy. So it seems it is even more than 4 years engineering course. Though I have been doing from last 1.5 years, so there are many process of evaluation. It's not little simple like Bhakti Sastri course. Bhakti Sastri, we have questionnaire, and then we qualify the questionnaire and straightway clear it. And in Bhakti Vaibhav, though we are completing all these cantos one by one, and detailed study and teaching is going on, but still there are 4 stages of evaluation. One is closed book test, other is open book test, then another sloka recitation test, and then there is other. So there are many 4-5 ways of evaluation, which is making a very lengthy process. If you can simplify it, it will be encouraging for many devotees to join Bhakti Vaibhav as well and complete. Just one observation, Prabhuji, and for your kind consideration. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. My first question to you on a lighter note is, did you find the process of bhakti easy? The morning sadhana, the expectations of what we expected to do. I think it's quite rigorous, right? Prabhu, Srila Prabhupada said that there's the Bhakti Shastri is like a bachelor's program, Bhakti Vaibhav is like a master's program. So let me try to answer this from different perspective. One perspective is the rigor of examination and the rigor of preparation, right? Now, we have already simplified it for you. Atul Krishna Prabhu just introduced today the Bhakti Vaibhav summative exam. There is no shortcut to the rigor of preparation. Let me be very clear. No shortcut to that. But yes, now this year, the ministry is introducing the Bhakti Vaibhav summative exam. Jai Jagannath Prabhu. So if you're familiar with Srila Prabhupada's books thoroughly, the first 6 cantos, you can simply write the Bhakti Vaibhav summative exam.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. So I was not aware of that. So this summative exam, where I can get all these reference?
As Atul Krishna Prabhu mentioned in the presentation today, this is being introduced. These will be available on the ministry website. He has given a contact email address, which I'll request Abhay Charan Prabhu to post again in the chat. You can write to that email address, and when the program is started, you can write a summative exam. Once again, having given you that simplified process, let me highlight. Srila Prabhupada expected these credentials to be carried on our chest like badges. That's what he wanted. He said the devotees in ISKCON will carry the Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav, Bhakti Vedanta, Bhakti Sarvabhauma title with more pride than bachelors or a masters in the secular world, because this is taking shelter of Srila Prabhupada's purports and qualifying it. So Srila Prabhupada expected that the Bhakti Shastri and Bhakti Vaibhavs will be able to defend the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. These are not titles meant for just internal consumption. These are educational credentials meant for us to be prepared to defend and propagate the process of Krishna consciousness worldwide. So if we actually carry that perspective in our mind, that's why we are going to carry the credential that I'm a Bhakti Vaibhav, so that devotees know that when faced with a philosophical challenge, they will just look around themselves and they'll see, here is a Bhakti Shastri, here is a Bhakti Vaibhav, here is a Bhakti Vedanta, here is a Bhakti Sarvabhauma, who's going to be put in front to defend. So that's what is expected of these programs. They're not just merely stepping stones. They are the cornerstone. They are the cornerstone of propagating Krishna consciousness systematically.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you to you. I would like to now invite, I'd like to check if there's anything Atul Krishna Prabhu would like to say with respect to this question of the rigor of Bhakti Vaibhav and the simplification. If anything Prabhu would like to add.
From the Board of Examinations, we're setting basic standards. And as you mentioned, for the course where you're taking classes, then we're assessing these different aspects. But that's sadhya abhyashanam chaiva. That's what a pundit means, that you're regularly reading. It's comparing it to mundane degree. Well, that's a credit. That's a credit. That it's meant to be something that's a major part of your life, and regularly studying the books. And we're just systematizing a system of assessment so that you get the degrees along with your regular study. That's what it means to be a follower of Prabhupada, a preacher, and a leader of ISKCON.
Thank you, Atul Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much. I'd like to call upon Rajraj Govinda Prabhu, your hand is still up.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, some of my video is not working now, but are you able to hear me?
We are able to hear you, yes.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for this initiative. I was personally inspired by the education field within ISKCON because the amount of transformation one experiences. I personally have experienced it after undergoing the Shastric studies. It's really phenomenal. I have 2 points to make. One point is that having witnessed for around 10-12 years in within the ISKCON society, different types of devotees, I found that not all are academically oriented. So there are some people who have knowledge of philosophy, but if you ask them to sit down and read or write the exams and present what they have understood in a very academic way, they find it difficult. That is first point. So is it possible, like if you see the adult education in outside world, there are different means of expression. They can choose to express their understanding in different ways other than the written format. There can be some oral presentation, or they can bring. They have some other innovative ways in which the evaluation is done. So
Good question, Rajraj Govinda Prabhu. A valid question, important question. The ministry is working on something like this. We are trying to find out, we're looking for more teachers and educators who can participate with us in creating a forum where oral examinations can also be taken. But from the perspective of the ministry, as you can imagine, we are creating building blocks. So we're trying to do the basic work first, then the next level and the next level.
yes.
So at this stage, we are not there. I'm hopeful we'll be there in probably 3 to 5 years. Our focus right now is to make sure that we can finalize the summative exams for Bhakti Vedanta, Bhakti Sarvabhauma. Our focus right now is to see how to make the study and teach program alive amongst leaders. And our hope is that these 18,000, 20,000 Bhakti Shastri, 1,000 Bhakti Vaibhavs, when we reach those levels, some of them will become part of the ministry to help others be evaluated also orally. So that's on the cards. If you know of educators who can help in this regard in conducting oral examination, they qualified themselves, then you can please let us know, and we'll be able to start the project earlier then.
Yes,
Thank you. I'd
I had
like
one
to,
more point.
yes, may I come back to you? There are two
Yes.
other devotees, and I want to make sure that we hear from them as well. Thank you. Shri Gaura Hari Prabhu. I request devotees, in the interest of time, to keep your questions short.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for such a wonderful symposium. Prabhuji, my question is regarding online courses assessment. So, Prabhuji, I find it not practical, and devotees sometimes take some wrong means in assessment. So what could be the solution for this?
Honesty, integrity, some of the qualities that we read in Bhagavad Gita need to be adopted by those devotees. I think the institutes, the examination centers who are running those examinations, you can give your feedback to them. Please also give us a written feedback to the ministry in writing. So if we identify what are the kinds of problems that are coming, then we can inform the examination centers to take care of it. Thank you. Thank you, Shigor Hari Prabhu. I'll go to Kapi Dhwaja.
You can go to Digvijay. He's not responding, Prabhu. Digvijay Prabhu is another one.
Thank you, Digvijay Prabhu.
Krishna, Hare Krishna. I am audible, Prabhu?
Yes, you're audible. Please go ahead. We have only a minute, so if you can quickly
First
ask
of all,
your
no questions, Prabhuji, but a lot of regards and thanks for the Ministry of Education for enlightening us. This is my second symposium which I am attending online. Thank you very much to the whole team.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your kind words. On this note, because we've just reached the hour, I'd like to thank once again the Board of Examinations, the ministry team, which has been diligently working on developing this, and to Atul Krishna Prabhu. Atul Krishna Prabhu, any concluding words from you before we go back to the plenary and hear from our next speaker?
Bijay Te Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Ki Jai.
Jai, thank you. Thank you so much, Atul Krishna Prabhu. Our next speaker is going to also talk about some of the questions that you raised with respect to the rigor of examination, how it should be adopted, etc. Please tighten your belts. The next presentation will address that in more details. I hand over back to Balivardhan Prabhu to take this forward.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. So I would like to introduce Tirtha Pavan Prabhu. It's been for the last 10 years, he was in charge of education in ISKCON, Russia. Under his guidance, they established over 20 Bhakti Shastri centers, several Bhakti Viplavah centers, and trained more than 50 teachers. He also runs an online school that has over 500 students at any given time. Lastly, he is the author of several books on the philosophy of Vaishnava education. We would like to welcome Tirtha Pavan Prabhu on this Viplavah 2022. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, floor is yours.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhu, I gave you a presentation, the PowerPoint presentation. Is it possible to turn it on?
Yes, Prabhuji. Let me share it.
Thank you so much.
Okay, give me 1 second.
While you're turning it on.
Yeah,
so thank you very much for inviting here. Thank you very much for inviting me here. I'm happy to be able to get in touch with you because you're really taking serious service within Srila Prabhupada's mission. So, okay, great. Yeah. Please turn on the next slide.
Okay.
So today I want to speak about the topic, which is bringing one from Shraddha to Nishtha through education. Next slide. And in particular, I will try to touch upon 3 parts within this presentation. One is I'll try to give a little bit different look on what is education. And then, wait. No, don't hurry up. So I'll tell you when to do the next slide. So to what is different look on what is education. Second one is systematic approach in education. And third one, I want to give you some very practical suggestion that you can use right away in the service you're doing. So please, next slide. So before I will start my main topic, I just wanted to briefly touch upon the additional or preliminary one, which is a paradigm shift about what is required to, and it is required to understand what I'll be suggesting within my main topic. So being in charge of education within some geographical area where we have more than 100 communities, usually when I come to some community and ask them, how is your education going on? They start telling me, well, we've got an ISKCON Disciples course, and we have Bhakti Shastri course, and we have course for first initiation, which is very nice, and I'm very happy about that. But usually it also brings to me a little bit of frustration because we don't have a Shastric study ministry. We have an education ministry, which is way broader than only Shastric education. Next slide. So I want to suggest you to see ISKCON as a university, because ISKCON's goal is people's spiritual growth. And spiritual growth by itself is an education. So you're being transformed, elevated, right? And so I want to suggest some paradigm shift in our consciousness to see entire ISKCON as university, not as there is an ISKCON and part of that is education, but rather seeing ISKCON by itself as a very educational institution. And Srila Prabhupada spoke about that quite a few times. Please, next slide. There is one very famous quote. Probably many of you are very much familiar with it. But in one of the letters, he was writing that we have enough of technological and other types of educational institutions, but perhaps there is none where actual Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are produced. So we will have to establish an educational institution for that purpose. Of course, somebody can say that he was speaking just about, again, some Bhaktivedanta Institute or something else, but I would, considering different top letters and conversations Srila Prabhupada had, we can see that Srila Prabhupada could look at ISKCON as a very much educational movement by itself. Next slide. Not in a way that everyone has to study Shastras 24 hours a day and don't do anything else, but rather to see all our programs that we already have, meaning Sunday feasts, kirtans, chanting japa, Sankirtan, care of cows, etc., as I would say interactive educational elements. Meaning that if person takes part in them, he is being spiritually trained. Because let's say when you go to Sankirtan, besides helping others, you're being spiritually trained yourself in some parts of your skills and spiritual behavior, right? So on one sense, it's service you're doing. In another sense, it's an anga of devotional service that is transforming yourself. So now with this vision, when I will be speaking about education, I will not be meaning just few courses here and there, but I will speak on how to organize our entire community with all its programs in such a way that they would help devotees progress the best way they can. So it's a much broader look at education. Next slide. So now, with a view that in mind, that education is not only courses when I speak about that, but it's something way broader. Let's move on to my main topic of presentation, which is systematic education. So next slide, please. The principle of systematic education is present everywhere. So you can find it in schools with their grades. You can find it in university where there are different courses, then there is magistrate, postgraduate studies, and so on. You can also find it just everywhere in our world in day-to-day life. For example, the child, when he learns to walk, it's gradual. It's not that the child is born and everyone knows, well, eventually he has to walk. So let me put him right away on his legs. And so then he will start walking. No, his backbone is not ready for that. His muscles are not ready for that. So first he needs to learn how to move his head. Then he has to learn how to switch from his position while lying. Then he has to crawl. Then only he starts learning to walk when his body is ready. So this principle of systematic education is very much universal. And if you try to break it, then you either won't bring benefit, or in worst case, we can even harm those people we are being training. So of course, when we speak about our spiritual society, there is different practices that will be beneficial at any point in time. the same way as every person, he has to breathe, he has to eat, drink, sleep, etc. So yes, we also have chanting, japa, and other elements of our spiritual practice that are relevant at any point in time. But next slide, please. We also have to understand when and how should we train devotees of different caliber or different experience. Like, for example, what should we teach a person who joined 1 year ago and the one who joined 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 30 years ago? What do they need? Each of them. So having a very much particular program. And that, again, I will come back to the first point I made, that does not mean just Shastri courses, but giving them the whole bench of various engagements that would be specifically designed for their spiritual growth according to their spiritual level. For example, some of them, they need more stress on peer work. So, okay, then they have to be engaged in some project where they work with peers. Somebody needs more education on how to work with his seniors and more discipline. Okay, then there's some mentorship program for him, and so on. And in the society around us, we have this systematic education. So there is kindergarten, preliminary school, usual school, university, postgraduate studies, and each of them, they exactly know what should they train their wards in. And each of them builds up on the previous stage. So when you go to university, they know what devotees have learned at school, and they just build up on that. Now, let me ask you, within your respective area, do you have anything like that in ISKCON? Do we have anything like that in ISKCON wherever you go? What is our educational program for, let's say, first 10 years of when the person joins? We usually have, in some areas, there is ISKCON Disciples course, which is 2-3 days. Eventually, sometimes some of the devotees, they take Bhakti Shastri course, which is, let's say, 3 or 4 months. What's the else of the time they're doing? They have various programs for everybody. Usually there are no specific courses. In some places there is a course before first initiation and so on, but usually it's not very much developed. And even if there is, usually it's, let's say, okay, one year study course, but we have 10 years, 20 years. So at all the other programs, usually all the devotees, they just come together. And it's like packing up everyone from kindergarten to PhD level in one room for the same class. Of course, again, some angas like Kirtan, Krishna Katha, and so on, they can be for everybody. But it's very strange when on most of our engagements, we pack everybody again from kindergarten to PhD level to the same classroom and start telling them the same thing. Next slide. Now, if I ask you, when we design our educational program, even if we do that, are we able to draw a map how this education will actually eventually bring the person to Prema Bhakti? Not in a way that, well, Shastras always bring benefits, so studying them, the person makes one more step towards his goal, but specifically how the person we are teaching will actually gradually come to Prema Bhakti. Okay, maybe not to Prema Bhakti, but some stage of devotional service. If I want to understand quantum physics, I first need to learn arithmetics, algebra, etc. Same way here. Does our educational program have its goal or not? And is that goal to bring the person to Prema Bhakti or Nishtha? Or we have some other goal? That he knows some amount of shlokas, he is able to write essays, he understands the philosophy and he is able to explain it, and so on and so on and so on. So do we even think in the direction that the goal of our education is actual spiritual growth, and do we measure it? Next slide. So what I want to suggest is a very, very, very simple suggestion. Let's put a goal of our education to bring a person to Nishtha. So you're in charge of, you're a mentor, or you're a teacher, or you're in charge of education within your community. So put the goal that the person or people you are responsible for, they eventually will go to Nishtha platform. Let's say, I don't know, in 10, 20 years, amount of years is not important here, but just set it up as a goal and then start building out, let's start building our communities, not only courses, but communities in such a way that people on the level of Shraddha, what we're giving that's best for them. If the people are at the sadhu sangha stage, then what is best for them? As people are on the bhajana kriya, what do we do that's best for them? And again, on Artha-Nibriti, what is best for them? Next slide, please. Next slide. So someone may ask, well, but how do we measure spiritual growth? There is no thermometer for it. But I would say that there is, because there are these stages of bhakti, which I mentioned, which is Shraddha, Sadhusanga, Bhajana Kriya, and Anartha-Nivriti. And they have been very much elaborately described by Srila Prabhupada and the previous acharyas. So if we look in detail of what they said on different occasions and we compile it all together, then we can see when exactly each stage starts and what one should learn on this stage. So the list of topics that person has to learn, again, not theoretically, but he has to change his character on that stage. So thus, knowing that, we can create our program accordingly. So this is what the qualification of the person, and this is what we should give him. This is a different qualification for the person. This is what we should give to him. Please, next slide. So if we do not do that, then there are few problems that arise. First, we often forget to train person in something he really needs to be able to progress. For example, on the sadhusanga level, acharyas tell us that sadhusanga level implies learning how to connect our daily routines to Krishna consciousness. And usually from what I see, even many, I'm not saying most, but many devotees, even after 10 or 20 years of their spiritual practice, they have very big difficulties with that, with connecting their daily duties to Krishna consciousness. That means that this part is very much missing in our education of those devotees. And of course, then it's very hard for them to progress to Bhajana Kriya or practice Bhajana Kriya if they have one of the stones of the previous level missing. So we can miss something, that's the first problem. Another problem is that we can teach something that is irrelevant to that person. For example, I don't know, Chaturvyuha. If it's practical, Chaturvyuha is practical, but if you teach it to the person who doesn't understand how it's practical for him in his life, meaning that he is not exactly on the level where it's relevant for him, then it just becomes a theory for him. It doesn't really change anything. It just becomes mind speculation for him. Now, third problem is that we can force a person to do something that he is not ready yet. For example, we want to ask him to surrender to organization, and it's needed, but at a certain level of one's development. When we teach that prematurely, that creates problems and usually even creates tensions with that person, because he just doesn't want to accept it yet. He's ready to accept his spiritual master, but he is not ready to accept to surrender to the organization that this spiritual master represents. So there is a very gradual process that one has to follow. Next slide. So no, I'm not going to say just, hey guys, I've got a cool idea. We should make our education systematic. Now the rest you figure out on your own. I've made a research which is not perfect, very much not perfect. It's just maybe one of the first researches in that area, but it has theory about 150 pages, a little bit more, on what are those stages of spiritual development are, and what one should learn on those stages. Besides the theory, there is a test with more than 100 questions. The test doesn't have right answers. It just have designed questions to be able to kind of like better think about the stages and try to understand what weak points each of us have. And besides the test, there is some practical checklist for the education we are designing. So there is, let's say, there is shorter stage, and there is a list of topics that the person has to get or learn at that stage. Please, next slide. Like just few points from that list. Like one has to be able to carefully study Bhagavad Gita on that, and that's not just the method, that's the goal also. One has to understand the essence of the path of bhakti, understand the superiority of this path, meaning bhakti over other paths, and so on. So you look at all that, and by that you are able to understand which courses we need to design for each specific audience, and or which lectures we should give on our Sunday feast program or Namahata, etc. So that is most relevant for the audience you are working with. And if you're in charge of education, then you're thinking about the whole community and you think how to build up from the very first stage. So now please, next slide, the last one. Okay, so the research I made is in Russian. So I had just 3 days when I was told that I should make a presentation here. So I translated the research into English. My English is not perfect and I had just 3 days. So the translation might also be quite imperfect, but it's done. You can find it with the link that's on the slide. If you want, you can write it down. It's very easy. Bhaktilata, which is the stages of devotion, bhaktilata.ru/English1. And there you'll find a link to that research. So again, there is theory about the stages, there is the test, and there is a practical list for the checkup and for the building of our education. So you can use that, and if you are not able to remember or write down the link now, probably the devotees will send it to you afterwards. So this is everything I just wanted to say. 20 minutes passed. So if there are any suggestions, questions, or anything you would like to confront, please do that.
There are some questions in the chat, Prabhuji. Are you able to see or can I read it?
1 second. Okay, let's move this down. Also, what do we teach these men? Born in devotees families. Yeah, that's a good point. What do we do with them? How to train them? I didn't touch on that within the work because I don't have much experience. But yes, that's a very important topic: how to educate grown-ups and how to educate children.
Для этого необходимо отключить режим полета.
So there is another
measure and spiritual growth.
Yeah, go ahead.
Measure and spiritual growth through assessing character and behavior, not just theoretical knowledge, it's but how to implement it practically. Yeah, I spoke about it. There are certain external signs also on where the person is, and the test also can help you to figure out where the issues are. And the test is not theoretical. Like it has questions like, who is Srila Prabhupada for you? And if the person starts answering from his intelligence, you can see that right away. So there is difference between answer from intelligence and answer from one's consciousness. So the test is for the consciousness, not for the intelligence. Okay. So Tapan Mishra Prabhu, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Tirtha Pavana Prabhu. Prabhu, I wanted to ask you, in the 10 years as somebody who was heading the education in Russia, and I'm quite confident that your research is also based upon your experiences over that decade, or probably for as long as you've been a devotee, you observed all of this. My question is that, were you able to implement a system that allowed you to identify in Russia and tailor-made education for devotees at different stages of their development? If yes, what was the response? If no, what was the reasons that this could not be implemented?
Thank you very much. Well, I could implement it on a very small scale so far. For example, I'm able to implement it for my own spiritual growth. So I use it, and I see that it helps to me because I can see my weak points and I build it. I build it up, and then the next stage that I wasn't able to practice before, now I'm getting strength there. So personally, I'm able to do that. Also on personal level, because I have different people for whom I'm playing the role of a mentor or something like that. I'm also able to help them. Now, there are also some parts for the society at large. For example, in Russia, I don't know if it's good or not, but in Russia, we have our own standards for first initiation. And they imply that the person has passed Shraddha and Sadhusanga stage. So there are specific tests that I've designed, not the one in the book, but another ones, that I help people to understand whether the person has passed or not, and what weak points he has, so that he gets additional training. So also for the first initiation, we do have some educational courses that are designed in such a way that they specifically help people within the areas that are more relevant for them. So I do have the program for first 3 years. In some communities, it's being implemented, and some not. The main difficulty with the implementation of this system is that stages of devotional development is a very much internal thing. So the person who is not mature enough to be able to look at the internal state of the consciousness of another person, he is only able to look at the external external things. And often that can be bewildering. So of course there is some connection, but it's not always 100%. So I would say that's one of the main issues, that not everybody is able to use it completely. And another one is that I've made a list, I've made a structure, but then it has to have some feeling within it. Like, for example, that the list I have, it's more than 60 topics. So that means that for each topic, you need to have a course. Like one topic is covered by, let's say, ISKCON Disciples course. One topic is covered by something else, but that needs 60 courses at least. And I'm not able to design all that by my own. I am able to do just something there.
So if I may ask a follow-up question, or maybe it's more like a comment. I think it's very important to always gauge what can be institutionalized in education and what should not be institutionalized. So my comment is that Srila Prabhupada expected a certain role to be performed by Siksha Gurus, Diksha Gurus. We tend to use words such as mentors, which are excellent. But in many ways, there was an expectation that the spiritual masters in the society will be able to do this hand-holding, and they must do the hand-holding. So I worry, of course, right now I'm speaking to you as an educational administrator, organizer, or whatnot, but I also worry that we need not take away the empowerment from the spiritual masters. Rather, our role would be to remind the spiritual masters that this is a role that they have to play in education, because everybody has a role to play. And definitely trying to over-institutionalize sometimes, maybe you can share your reflection, can take the spirit away from the process.
Yes, thank you very much. I fully agree with you. And that's one of the things why I was speaking firstly, that education is a much more than just Shastri courses, because the culture that I often see is that the spiritual masters, not everyone, but many spiritual masters, they are not taking part in the educational process. So it's kind of like separated. So, but the Diksha process is part of the education. Shiksha process that's connected to Diksha is part of the education. So how to connect all that, where it all fits in. Yes, that's a very important thing. Thank you very much. It's 8:29. I don't know if we have
There's
time
one more question. There is one devotee, Shri Gaura Hari Prabhu. I'll ask him to unmute and ask his question.
Thank you, Prabhu, for such a wonderful presentation and such a elaborate research. Prabhuji, you mentioned some references where we can find the different stages. You mentioned some name for different stages, how to identify who is in which stage.
Yeah, it's in the research I've made, and you can find it. The link is in the chat also right now.
You mentioned some person's name.
It's if you open the chat, it's some person's name. I don't remember. I don't remember which name I mentioned there. Sorry.
You said that for Shraddha, what are the means how one can know that one is in Shraddha? So these all those stages, Shraddha, Sadhu, Sangha, the detailed.
I don't think I've mentioned any particular name.
So how you?
Yeah, I don't think I mentioned any particular.
May I have a suggestion, Tirtha Pavana Prabhu here? Shri Gaura Hari Prabhu, the topic is you must go and read the research that Tirtha Pavana Prabhu has performed. It's available in English, and it will allow you to get all the details that are available. Because that's the right way to perform justice to Prabhu's work. Tirtha Pavana Prabhu, thank you so much for your presentation. And I'd like to also inform that very soon Tirtha Pavana Prabhu is also going to help us at the ministry in the new teachers board. We're expecting Prabhu to contribute and give inputs through his experience and research, so that some aspects of what he just talked about get captured in the teachers becoming the mentors and helping and identifying these stages. Thank you, Tirtha Pavana Prabhu, so much for your presentation today. I like to hand it back to Balimardan Prabhu to perform the closing of the ceremony for this session, and also to invite, then you can invite the devotees for the last session of the conference.
Sure, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. I think two announcements. One is I launched the poll. Please feel free to provide it. Just take 15 seconds. And second thing is tomorrow, not tomorrow, probably it is in India. So evening time, we have the last session. And let me quickly share the PDF so that you have the full. Okay, can you see my screen? So please do join at 6:30 p.m. and we have 4 sessions. Bhakti Vasudev Maharaj, Urmila Mataji, Gaurang Prabhu, and Tapan Mishra Prabhu's last one. So that's one. And then last but not the least, I would request Tapan Mishra Prabhu to give the prayers to the Vaishnavas, those who have joined, and thanking.
Thank you. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya vacha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavabhyo namo namah. Thank you everybody for joining. Please invite your devotee friends, educators in your communities to join us for the last session. These videos are going to be available on our YouTube platform for all of you to share subsequently also. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. See you all in the evening in few hours.
Thank you very much, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
We'll end the